Let's try and analyze all of that. Where is it that investors can scout for value? Vishal Manchanda from Systematix Group joins in on the show right now. Vishal, hi, morning. Great to have you on the show. Vishal, really help us understand where is it that big ticket value would emerge, and I'm not talking about the stock prices here, just in terms of where the pharma industry is headed. You just heard Ramesh Damani talk about I think he was talking about Sun Pharma, if I'm not mistaken. But where is it that you foresee the next big trend for the industry right now?
Right. So good morning. I think one area, as Mr. Damani pointed out, semaglutide, ozempic is one large opportunity for the sector, but that's a bit out. It's not something that's going to happen imminently. Probably it's going to play out around FY27 in India and probably FY32 in the US. So it's a large opportunity, but we don't know who will emerge as a winner in this space. This is basically the anti-obesity drug that's actually creating a lot of noise around the world. So this market is yet to open up in India, while it's growing very fast across the world. Fundamentally, I think the value in the pharma sector lies in innovation. Generics probably is matured now in terms of at least in the developed markets, the generic opportunity is matured. There is a potential of pricing getting favorable in the developed markets, but nothing in sight as of now because supplies remain intact. Supplies don't move out and competition is also not moving out in terms of and there is some value in the complex generic space, but not very significant to drive stock prices meaningfully from where they are today. So I think innovation is where we should look for. Like antibiotic innovation is happening in India. Companies like Sun Pharma, they have cash and they have a platform to build innovation. So I think these are themes to watch out in the pharma space.
Some of the key drugs which to your mind are going to be the game-changing drugs for next 2 or 3 years. I'm just drawing a parallel here for the benefit of viewers. For example, rightly so or wrongly so, I don't know, but there were a lot of companies which were, let's say, in remdesivir, HCQ, monopiravir. They became very important drugs because of COVID. Are there any 2 or 3 drugs which you think could be the magical drugs for next 2 or 3 years from an industry standpoint?
So if we are looking for short-term opportunities, like you talked about molnupiravir, these were short-term opportunities, say around 2 years, 3 years opportunities. So we can find those opportunities in the complex generic space. So companies have been kind of trying to develop complex generics. However, it's not possible to predict timing of approvals. Companies have been investing for the last decade on this opportunity. There is a category called depot injectables, and within that category, depot injectables, there are multiple drugs that are already off patent in the US, but there are no generics, and some of these drugs are as large as $1 billion. So any Indian company, if they are able to crack one of those depot injectables, it can be a very meaningful opportunity for them, but it's not something that's going to be structural, like last in the base for very long, maybe 2-3 years post-launch. Fundamentally, I would again point to the fact that innovation is what can drive structural growth for the sector, while the generics can give you intermittent spikes in earnings.
Are there any long-term trends in the domestic pharma which you think could be, which today are small but they could become reasonably big? For example, weight loss as a category has become big. Preventive and perhaps buying vitamins of all kinds, nutraceuticals has become big. Are there any other trends which you think could become big in domestic market?
So apart from weight loss, obesity, that's becoming big and going to become much larger than where it is today. If you look at the Indian market space, I think oncology as a segment is growing fastest within IPM, and that's where opportunities are. So currently, what we are seeing is in the oncology space, the the larger players are MNC players. So they have been importing drugs from their innovator portfolio, parent portfolio into India. We are yet to see. Other way to play out oncology in India is launch biosimilars. So some companies like Zydus is doing that. So they're launching biosimilars in India for oncology drugs. So that's another theme to play out. While I think immunology is another therapy area that's catching up well in India, but the core challenge in India right now is affordability. So as affordability would pick up, we'll see these spaces become very, very large over time, immunology and oncology.
Run us through your top recommendations then, Vishal, within the pharma space.
So we have a hold on most of the larger names in the space, while we have a buy on Jubilant Pharmova, which is about a 12,000 crore, 11,000 crore market cap company. So we see a turnaround in Jubilant Pharmova. The other names we have a buy on are Krsnaa Diagnostics and SastaSundar Ventures.
What about the other side of the equation, which is the US generic market? Things are changing there also. Lack of availability now is putting pressure on distributors to start increasing prices, and evidence of that is visible if I look at the numbers which have come out from, let's say, an Aurobindo Pharma or even Lupin. How do you see that end of the spectrum moving? So far what we've discussed is that what is the India tailwind. Now let's understand the global picture.
So as I said, I think on the US and the developed markets front, I think there is very limited upside from where companies are kind of positioned today. So most companies are around that $1 billion number. I think there is not much headroom for this number to meaningfully go up from where it is today. Pricing, as you said, it is helping very select drugs in the space. While we have also started to see price erosion in a large basket of drugs. This price erosion is primarily happening because there is erosion in the API prices. We have seen API prices come down sharply this year, and generic companies are reacting to the lower API prices through lower formulation prices in the US. So it's a mixed bag now in the US if we look at the space. So a very select pockets seeing price increases, but I think we are still seeing a larger basket witnessing price erosion. If we look at company, what they are guiding for high single digit price erosion in the US. So basically this is we are not seeing supplies moving out of the generic industry, while the opportunity is not growing as much. The supply is intact. In fact, most companies have excess capacities yet to play out for them. So once these capacities play out and potentially the opportunity. So I don't see opportunities really coming in larger. So there are very small opportunities going forward in the generic space.
Hypothetical question here. Let's look at two baskets. A basket which has more Indian tilt to it, maybe MNC pharma companies like Mankind, companies essentially which have a domestic market. Or a basket which essentially is based on US generic, Glenmark or for that matter, Aurobindo, Lupin. I mean, the names are obvious. Which basket to your mind has scope to outperform? I mean, the similar basket, a lot of financial experts make in PSU versus private. So within pharma, what should be the assortment of the basket?
So I would look at a third basket, not even the Indian pharma basket, because that's companies there are stretched in terms of the valuations. So I'll not look at the Indian pharma. I very select names that we can look at in that bracket where valuations are not stretched. But the only company that's doing innovation in India is Sun Pharma. They are doing innovation globally. So that's where I would look at, because the headroom for growth is much larger. The US generics, as I said, there is very limited upside in terms of the market opportunity. 90% of the drugs in US are already generics. So you just have another 10% to kind of tap into the US market, and the market is not growing as such. And even within that 10%, you have biologics, which is not as much accessible. So probably about only 5%. There is 5% upside in the US generic in terms of the volumes that you should expect. So there is a challenge in the sector. I think Indian pharma, even if you look at the Indian pharma market, the growth has been slowing versus what it was in the past. It used to be kind of low double digit. Now we are probably witnessing high single digit growth. So innovation is where one should focus on. And other segment that one can look at is the CDMO space, because we might see some tailwinds there because of regulations in the US. So that's a space to watch out for, and that's a scalable space that can become much larger from where it is today.
Thank you for joining in. Good to have you on board, to understand the dynamics of the pharma sector in greater detail, and of course, some of your top recommendations.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.